Good afternoon. This is Kurt Beckett, Chair of the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, calling this meeting to order. Ms. Grantham, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Department of Commerce,
Elizabeth Osborne, present.
Department of Ecology,
Eli Levitt, present.
Department of Fish and Wildlife,
Nate Pamplin, present.
Department of Natural Resources,
Lenny Young, present.
Utilities and Transportation Commission,
Stacy Brewster, present.
for local government and optional state agencies for the Badger Mountain Project for Douglas County, Jordan Julio.
Jordan Julio, present.
Thank you. For Hop Hill Solar for Benton County, Paul Crouppen. For Carriager Solar for Klickitat County, Matt Childs. For the Wallula Gap Project for Benton County, Adam File.
Adam is here. Thank you.
Thank you. GoldenEye Best for Skagit
Childs,
County.
present.
Who is that? Was that Matt Childs?
Matt Childs for Carriager, yes, Klickitat County.
Thank you, Mr. Childs. Going on to GoldenEye Best, Skagit County, Robbie Eckroth.
Present.
Moving on to Assistant Attorney Generals, John Thompson,
Present.
Zach Packer,
Present.
and Talia Tewitt. For FSEC staff, I'm going to call those anticipated to speak today. Sonia Bumpus,
Sonia Bumpus, present.
Amy Hofgemeyer,
Present.
Amy Moon,
Amy Moon, present.
Sarah Randolph,
Present.
Sean Green,
Present.
Dave Walker,
Present.
Lisa McLean,
Present.
John Barnes,
Present.
and Joanne Snarsky.
Present.
Moving on to operational updates, Jared Cassidy, or apologies, Kittitas Valley Wind Project.
Jared Cassidy, present.
Thank you.
Yep.
Wild Horse Wind Power Project. Is Miss Galbraith on the line? Moving on to Grays Harbor Energy Center.
For Sharon. Present.
Thank you. Chehalis Generation Facility. Columbia Generating Station.
Josh Laporte, present.
Columbia Solar.
Columbia Solar, present.
And is that Kelsey Wood?
Sorry, this is Liz Drachenberg.
Thank you. I'm moving on to Goose Prairie Solar.
Nelson Jaw here.
And then Ostria Solar.
Crip Steakums is present.
And do we have anyone present for the Council for the Environment?
Yes, Sarah Reineveld and Yuri Korel are present.
Thank you. Chair, there is a quorum for all councils.
Thank you, Ms. Grantham. Council members, we have the proposed agenda in front of you. Is there a motion to adopt the proposed agenda?
Lenny Young, so moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion from the council on the agenda? Hearing none. If I could have a vote in favor of adopting the agenda, please say yes or aye.
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 And opposed? Okay, the agenda is adopted. Moving on to the meeting minutes. We have our March 19th meeting minutes in front of you, which I have reviewed. Are there other, excuse me, I guess, can we have a motion to adopt the minutes first?
Elizabeth Osborne, so moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or edits that we would like to add to the record? I did not have any to add in communication with staff prior to the meeting. Last call for any edits or additions? Okay, hearing none, may I have all those in support of adopting the minutes as recorded, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. The minutes are adopted. Moving on to the operating updates. If we could have the Kittitas Valley Wind Project update. Jared Cassidy.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair Beckett, FSEC Council and staff. This is Jared Cassidy with the EDP Renewables Kittitas Valley Wind Power Project. We had nothing non-routine report for the period.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Wild Horse Wind Project.
Yes, thank you, Chair Beckett, council members and staff. So this is Jennifer Galbraith representing the Wild Horse Wind Facility for Puget Sound Energy. And I have nothing non-routine to report for the month of March.
Very well, thank you. Moving on to the Chehalis Generating Facility. Not certain if we had a member present for that.
Hi, Chair Beckett. This is Sarah Randolph, Site Specialist. I didn't hear Jeremy on the line. So I'll
Go
and
ahead,
give the
Sarah.
report.
Thank you. That'd be
Thank you.
most welcome.
For the record, this is Sarah Randolph, Site Specialist for Chehalis. The facility update is provided in your packet. There were no non-routine updates to report.
Very well, thank you. Moving on to the Grays Harbor Energy Center. Chris Sharon.
Afternoon, Chair Beckett, Council, FSEC Council and staff. For the month of March, I also have nothing to report. Other non-routine, excuse me.
Very well, thank you. Moving on to Columbia Solar. Mr. Cushing.
Good afternoon, Chair Beckett, FSEC Council and staff. This is Elizabeth Drachenberg for Columbia Solar. There are no non-routine updates to report.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and apologies for using a wrong name. Moving on to the Columbia Generating Station. Mr. Laporte.
Good afternoon, Chair Beckett and FSEC Council and staff. This is Josh Laporte for Energy Northwest Columbia Generating Station and Washington Nuclear Projects 1 and 4. There were no non-routine matters to report. The additional information is included in the packet.
Very well, thank you. And I'm sorry, that covered both operations. Sorry to have not clarified at the outset. Is there any further update for WNP 1 and 4?
Thanks for the clarification, Chair Beckett. That is correct. That covers both sites.
Very well, thank you. Moving on to Goose Prairie.
Hi, Nelson Jaff
Gia.
here. For the month of March, we did have some issues with our inverters again. This is a continuation from previous month, but SunGrow is expected to install a new firmware at our sites this month. Hopefully that resolves a lot of our issues with the inverters. On top of that, we did have one, yes, you could say major failure. Our rack system that was holding our modules failed, allowing some of the modules to detach and break through the post. So that caused about 1 megawatt worth of modules to go down, but that has since been resolved. Otherwise, no other non-routine operation or environmental updates. I did want to make a note that on our staffing side of things, Carson Stewart, who was our lead technician before, has now been promoted to our operations manager at site. And I've provided his contact information there as well, if needed. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the added detail. Moving on to Austria Solar, Trip Stakem.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. I'm going to do a quick construction update. Everything so far is on schedule. We've got road construction over 50% complete. Both laydown yards are installed and the site entrance is complete. We're not under operation yet, so nothing to report there. And for environmental compliance, everything is checking out so far. We are installing or have installed all of the bump lines, silt fence, BMP installations on site are continuing. We've had weekly and SWIP inspections performed, and everything is no issues to report there. Previously reported on 3/7 was a buried 55-gallon drum containing an unknown substance that has since been cleared, although we're awaiting the final report, which will be shared upon receipt. Additionally, we had 2 previously unknown water wells that were discovered on site. The plan is to cap these water wells. We are currently doing some additional evaluation of those wells to determine the depth and overall size of them and confirm that they are not in conflict with any of the project facilities. We do not believe that's going to be an issue, but once we have a final plan, that will be shared as well. Otherwise, we've had weekly site inspections performed by Lynn Bell, and she noted weekly that we have no non-compliant elements being discovered. Otherwise, we do have a revised IFC drawing that is currently being reviewed by the FSEC staff, and as well as the seed mix that has been approved for the vegetation management plan. And that's the update for the current construction.
Very well. Lots going on. So thanks again for the added detail and update. Moving on to Badger Mountain, I believe Joanne Snarski, FSEC team, will provide the update.
Thank you, Chair Beckett and council members. For the record, I just lost my notes. Bear with me.
Take your time. They'll pop
There
back
we
up,
go.
I'm sure.
There we go. For the record, this is Joanne Snarski, the siting specialist for the proposed Badger Mountain Solar Facility. This is my first update to the council on this project since July 2024. At that time, the applicant requested a formal 4-month pause on the project while they evaluated the future viability of the project. They have extended this request and hope to have a formal confirmation on the project status by June 2025. In the interim, they have had an application review period that expired on April 7th, 2025. On April 2nd, 2025, Avangrid sent a request for an extension to the application. Although they did not request a specific timeline for the extension, staff recommend the council provide an extension to the applicant through July 2025. We posted the Badger Mountain extension request for comments between April 8th and 13th, 2025. We received 19 comments, which were posted to the council SharePoint for your review, including from the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation and local residents. All comments were against providing an extension. Comments primarily focused on the environmental impacts from the project. That's all I have. Can I answer any questions?
I may have a couple, but I believe staff may have a couple other supplemental comments, or am I mistaken?
Thank you. This is Sonia Bumpus for the record. Good afternoon, Chair Beckett and council members. Just wanted to comment on the request of the applicant for the pause in expenditures. So the RCW 80.50.071 discusses that each applicant is responsible for the expenditures for the processing of their application. And so to that request, to that part of the request in the extension letter, the expenditures would continue to be billed for non-direct costs, but direct billing would cease during this pause. So I just wanted to provide that information in case the council had questions about that.
Okay. Thank you. And just to clarify, that latter topic is not a subject of the current proposed action before the council, but we did want to acknowledge that topic that was contained in the letter that's also part of the record today, as far as there was a extension of the actual agreement between FSEC and the applicant, and then the other second topic that the director just spoke to. So, and I'm happy, let me just ask a process question of our council or Ms. Grantham. In terms of discussion, we've got a regular update here. We're next going to take up an action. Is there best to have discussion before that motion's on the table, or is discussion on the motion? Or if other council members have their own Robert's Rules perspective on that, but appreciate any feedback. And happy to take discussion in both if that's desired, but we just want to acknowledge the process.
I still, Mr. Chair, if I could, I still have just a few questions that it's okay
Please.
we could have.
Let's go ahead and do it now, and then we'll take any others specific to the action next. Sounds like
Well, thanks
good
for
idea.
the staff the update here on this project. In reviewing the comments, it was noted that perhaps some of the landowners may have changed as far as having an agreement with the project applicant. And so wanted to know how that necessarily affects this. Is the project still viable, and what would be the consequences of not extending or granting this extension? What would the applicant have to do as far as to reset?
I can take a stab at part of that, but I might need a little bit of support on the other part. As far as the extension of the existing leases on those, we don't get that information specifically provided to us. It has been discussed with us earlier on that they were seeking some renewals, and that was part of the reason, I think, that they asked for the pause, but they cited other reasons in their original letter that were included as far as their evaluation. So I can't speak to where do they stand with all of those agreements or not.
Through the chair, thank you. And then the consequence of not granting an extension, what would the project applicant have to do, or what would be the implications for the project applicant if they were have to submit a new project?
I think Sonia's best to answer that.
Thank you for the question. For the record, this is Sonia Bumpus. So if the extension is not approved, then work would cease on the application. And so we would not continue to do any work to move the application through its process.
And through the chair, so the project applicant would still be able to resubmit when they've determined that the project is viable?
Maybe this is John Thompson, so legal advisor to the council. There really is no precedent that I'm aware of for not granting an extension request. So I think if you were to not grant it, you probably the best thing to do would be to spell out your intention as to whether that what you're doing is to basically dismiss the application. In other words, to say we're not processing this any further, and you're going to need to, and it should be considered terminated, and you'll need to refile, or even I suppose if you're granting leave to refile the same project again. I mean, you'd want to be careful to spell out, I think, the exactly what your intention is with regard to the processing of the application, because there's not an automatic. The statute doesn't spell out any kind of specific consequence or what happens if an extension is not granted.
And
go ahead, Director Bumpus, and we'll come back to our council member. And we do have, I'll just note for those who have their hands up, we have 2 other hands up, and I'll garner the names off my screen here in just a moment. So I just want to acknowledge those.
Thank you. I was just going to add that in the past, when an applicant has been going through the process and something has occurred that's sort of warrants pause of the work, or FSEC is unable to move forward, typically those applications have stayed on the books, if you will, and they continue to pay non-direct costs, so that when they're ready to resume, FSEC has the capacity and has the contracts and things it needs to be able to resume the processing of the application when the applicant indicates they're ready. So in the past, there have been cases where an applicant, something happens that is not related to FSEC's process, something they need to work out on their end in order to move forward. and FSEC has paused direct billing on that project. And then when they're ready to proceed, they come back and let us know, and then we can resume processing at that time.
Thanks for indulging me here, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Bumpus, for the responses. But by no means, please interpret any of my questions associated with the substance of the merits of the project. It was more about me learning the process. And when I reviewed the letter indicating an indefinite request of the extension, I just wanted to know what were the trade-offs for FSEC and for the applicant to understand, is it a pause or an extension, or is it a withdrawal and then resubmit when they feel like the project's viable? So thanks for the information.
Thank you for the added context, and a couple questions I had in the back of my mind here too, and so appreciate you diving in there. And Mr. Young first, and then Mr. Giulio from our Douglas County representative. Mr. Young first.
Thank you. I also noticed in the comments that we were forwarded the statements that some of the leases that were originally in place were no longer in place. And it raised the question for me without knowing whether that's true or not. It raised the question for me in terms of are we certain that the application is still valid if theoretically an applicant no longer controls the land that makes up the project site? Does FSEC have any type of an ongoing duty to ascertain whether an applicant still controls the land? Where does that stand?
So this is Sonia Bumpus for the record. Thank you for the question, and our legal counsel, John Thompson, may want to add to this. So the application for site certification, FSEC's statute and rules that apply there to the ASC does not require that the applicant have site control. So the status of leases and things of this nature are not a requirement for the filing of an application for site certification with FSEC. That being said, a lot of the studies and things like that that need to be done on the ground in the field, oftentimes site control is an imperative for that, but it's not a requirement for the processing of the application.
Thank you.
I just want to double check, Councilman Young. Sounds like that covered your questions, but let me confirm with you first.
Yes, it did. I appreciate that answer.
Very well. And I believe Councilman Giulio, pardon me on my pronunciation, and you may have had your question answered. It looks like I see your hand down, but again, out of respect to you, let me double check.
Yes, that did answer my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other comments or questions, discussion of the update? Please.
Mr. Chair, Joanne, would you mind indicating your recommendation was to extend it through July? So is that July 1st, July 31? What did you have in mind?
The end of July, July 31st.
Great, thank you.
Very well. Well, again, this Chair Beckett, let me just make a comment, I guess, here in the update, and then we'll move on with the council's support to the proposed action here, and hear from the council on their intent. I would just say my observations from what I read, as well as appreciate some of the added context from the discussion, is that I just think that the confusion at times that can come from the public comments that I read, and I want to make sure that was part of what raised my questions, was from those public comments, which I appreciate, is that while projects like this take a long time, there's a lot of complexities and all those those aspects. At the same time, when they do get elongated and certain issues like, well, is there a lease, isn't there a lease, ultimately that can create confusion, if you will, as to where we're at and where we're going. And while I don't know that by any means that's the intent here, I think that's the effect, and that ultimately affects all the parties involved. And so appreciate hearing that the company already had stated elsewhere, as opposed in their letter, that there was an intent to provide some additional feedback and content, I assume both to staff and then of course the council, on their path ahead and would do so in June. So that's good to learn. And in this case, I just think that the sooner that we can get some clarity here for all parties would be to the betterment of all. So I'll leave it at that. Okay. So with that, could I have a motion for the extension request to the end of July 31, so 7/31/25 for the Badger Mountain project? Is there a motion for that effect?
Mr. Chair, this is Nate. I'll make that motion to extend Badger Mountain or grant the extension request for Badger Mountain through July 31st, 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Stacy Brewster, second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the action now before the council to provide an extension to the Badger Mountain project through the end of July 2025? Let me just double check on screen. Okay, hearing none. Then all in favor of providing that extension, please signify by saying aye.
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 That's an extra aye. Yeah. And those opposed? I don't believe there's any abstentions. Okay, motion is passed and the extension has been acted upon. Moving on to, and let me just double check with Director Bumpus, nothing else on that item, I believe. Okay. Moving on then to Carriger Solar. Joanne Snarski is double
Yeah.
duty today. So
Yes, again, this is Joanne Snarski for the record, the siting specialist for Carriger Solar in Clickitat County. To restate for the record, on August 8th, 2023, the FSEC State Environmental Policy Act responsible official, Director Bumpus, issued a letter under RCW 80.50.090 subparagraph 3 stating that the SEPA determination of significance was anticipated for the impacts to visual resources and cultural and historic resources. This was based on FSEC's internal review as well as input from the Yakama Nation Cultural Resources Program staff. Under this RCW, the applicant is given the option of withdrawing or revising its application to mitigate impacts that were the basis of the determination of significance. In discussions with the applicant responding to this letter, Cypress Creek Renewables, I'll refer to them as CCR, agreed to the completion of a traditional cultural places study to be conducted by the Yakama Nation staff in support of FSEC's SEPA review. FSEC and the Yakama Nation attorneys worked to develop our first interagency agreement with the Yakama Nation staff for the completion of the study, scheduled to be conducted between December 2023 and December 2024. Yakama Nation staff completed the study ahead of schedule and submitted a copy of to FSEC on October 28, 2024. During an initial discussion on the TCP Traditional Cultural Property Study results, due to the highly confidential nature of this study, FSEC staff requested a summary letter which was developed by Yakama staff and received on December 19, 2024. This was provided to CCR for the purpose of informing mitigation discussions. CCR provided mitigation measures for discussion purposes on January 23, 2025, which FSEC provided to Yakama Nation staff and discussed during a phone call on February 7, 2025. Following additional discussions, CCR provided further mitigation for FSEC consideration on March 12, 2025. While the TCP study was underway, FSEC continued coordination with the CCR on concerns related to impacts to visual resources. Staff received a revised visual impact analysis on March 1st, 2024, and further revisions on July 18th in 2024. Additionally, FSEC continued coordination with CCR to resolve the questions associated with the original wetlands and water resources study. Washington Department of Ecology indicated additional information was needed in a letter to FSEC dated August 28, 2023. After a site visit, an additional review and fieldwork by both CCR and Ecology, an updated report was provided on August 1st, 2024. FSEC staff received Ecology's concurrence with the updated report on November 8, 2024. As a result of this work and coordination, on April 7th, 2025, staff posted a mitigated determination of non-significance for the proposed Carriger project. The public comment period will end at 11:59 p.m. on April 20th, 2025. The next steps following the closure of the SEPA comment period will be to evaluate any comments received to determine if any updates or revisions should be made to the mitigated determination of non-significance. Once finalized, the council will be asked to take up the applicant's requests for expedited review of the application. At this time, staff anticipate that a special meeting will be held on May 5th, 2025, for the council to take up the question of expedited process. If expedited process is granted, a public meeting would be held to take comment on the project. Staff are also working to schedule a council site visit on May 6th. Public notices of these activities will be provided at the conclusion of the SEPA determination comment period. This would be a good time to break to ask questions before I continue. There is more.
Very well. Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to break it up a bit. Members of the council, are there questions or discussion at this time on the update so far?
That was a lot of dates, but I think there was a summary table that was provided last week that may be helpful to reflect on as well.
Right. Part of the project
And-
update on
yeah.
the website. Yeah. I don't see any hands raised online. Hey, Councilman?
That's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks again for the staff report, Ms. Snarski. So just trying to, again, understand a lot of process questions here. So grant the extension, complete the public comment period, but the public meeting on the evening of May 5th is contingent on council action at a special meeting on May 5th. So it sounds like that's going to be publicly notified, but just if you're a member of the public, how do you know if you show up or not? Thank you.
Through the formal notice process. And excuse me, we also have a running list of folks online that also get a direct notice into their email as well. So there's the public aspect of it through the newspapers, of course, through our via email. Did I leave anything out?
Please, Ms. Hofkamar.
I would just like to add to Ms. Snarski's statement. This is Amy Hofkemeyer for the record. When the public notice goes out for these activities, for each date that the council will be gathering, the items up for discussion, even potentially, will be included in those notices so that the public may evaluate if they would like to attend, if something, so for example, the notice for the council to take up the question of expedited process will also include information that if expedited process is granted, that there will also be this additional informational meeting so that the public is aware that that is scheduled, and if they would like to attend that secondary public comment meeting, to prepare to speak to that.
Through the chair, thanks for the response. Yes, just trying to learn, and it sounds like this is going to be front loaded as much as we can to give the public notice. So thank you.
Thanks. No, I think great questions in terms of especially the overall mission of transparency and making things clear. I think, again, today's update, is a part of that, and ultimately it's a cumulative effort, I think, in that regard. Can staff remind council again in terms of the format of the meeting on the 5th? Is it all hybrid? Is it in person? Couldn't recall at the moment, but obviously we are doing the site visit the next day.
We are doing a site visit the next day on the 6th, which will also be a public meeting, given that there will be a quorum of council members in attendance. So that will also be publicly noticed for those who are interested in attending the site visit. The meeting proposed for the evening of May 5th will be hybrid. We are still working on the final details of the venue. So we are not ready to issue that public notice just yet, but the information on how to attend in person or virtually will be in the notice.
Very good. Thank you. I guess that then, I'm sorry, other questions or comments from the council first? And then actually, as a reminder, we'll go back to Ms. Snarsky, who's going to pick up, I don't know if it's the back half or the back, whatever percentage, but any other questions though first before we turn it back to staff? Okay, Ms. Snarsky.
Okay. As a reminder, at the March 19th council meeting, the council granted an extension of 1 month from April 1st to May 1st, 2025, to allow for staff and the applicant to develop a timeline for the remaining work. Since that meeting, staff and the applicant have agreed to an extension of application review through June 25th, 2025. We believe this extension will provide sufficient time for the council to complete the remaining process steps, including developing a recommendation to the governor on whether or not to approve the project. The extension request was posted for public comment from April 9th through April 13th, 2025. We received no comments. That's all I have.
Thank you. Discussion on both the extension date and any other additional topics that were just covered by Ms. Snarsky from the council.
Yes. This is Matt Childs from Klickitat County. So the proposed extension toward the end of June, at the end of that extension, the council will be making the decision, assume recommendation to the governor. Is that correct at that point?
I'm not sure if that's
I think
geared
that's
at
a question to
me
staff.
or to the actual council. Go ahead, Amy.
So the timeline that staff have worked out, the remaining steps for the question of expedited process, council deliberations and so forth, review of the SEPA comments received. When taking a look at the schedule for all of those activities, allowing for council deliberations in May and June, we do project that if the council so moves, a recommendation could be made to the governor within that timeline.
Thank you.
Does that cover your questions, Mr. Childs? Or any others from you?
No other questions right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or discussion? Okay. With that, I guess we'll conclude the actual project update, and then we would move to the extension request, which would necessitate me asking for a motion to extend the Carriger Solar project agreement to June 25th, 2025. We will have opportunity for any further discussion if there's agreement to put the motion on the table. Is there a motion by the council to extend the Carriger Solar project?
Lenny Young, so moved.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Is there a second?
Second.
So Pamplin. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the proposed extension?
I have another question. This is Matt Childs again from Clickitat County.
Please go ahead, Mr. Childs.
So if the extension is approved and the decision is made to not go with the expedited processing, would there then need to be another extension, or what would that process be? It sounds like this extension is designed for the expedited processing, and I just want to clarify on should the decision be made to not go expedited, will we then need another extension, or should we be pushing this out a little longer right now? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Childs. I believe Director Bumpus indicates she would like to field that one.
Thank you, Chair Beckett and Council. For the record, this is Sonia Bumpus. This proposed schedule that's pretty high level at this point, it does assume that there really isn't any substantial comment on the MDNS, so it doesn't contemplate any substantial revisions to the MDNS. And it also assumes that expedited process is granted. So if we do get substantive comments on the MDNS and there's rework that needs to be done there, that could throw these milestones off. If we also see that expedited process is not granted, the two criteria aren't met, then again, we would be needing to go back and talk with the applicant about another timeline. So there are some robust assumptions that are baked in here. But we have talked with the applicant about this, and we would go back with them and talk about where we are at that point and what would be a reasonable schedule moving forward from there.
Mr. Childs, any follow-up from your original question or comments from you?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That I think answers the question for now. Clickitat County would like probably the opportunity to add a few more comments. Would the May 5th meeting be a good opportunity to do that, or should I just get those to staff in between meetings?
Director Bumpus.
Well, there is a comment period that's ongoing now, which that's an opportunity that's available right now, and then of course certainly the county can provide comment at the meetings that we discussed a little while ago.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ms. Bumpus.
Ms. Hoffmeyer, anything to add?
I was just made aware of one small change to the report that Ms. Snarsky gave earlier.
Okay.
We did receive comments on the extension, primarily in opposition to the extension and primarily citing environmental impacts as the reason, with several indicating concerns about the proposed battery storage portion of the project.
Okay. And ultimately, those concerns would inherently be taken up as part of the meeting on the 5th, and as well as really the ongoing process. But while they're posted around the extension, ultimately, the basis of those comments will be part of the decision on the 5th, or the consideration on the 5th. Is that correct? As well as the eventual, if things
as well as
proceed,
the council's overall deliberation.
Right. Okay. We appreciate you bringing that forward, obviously, in terms of public comment. That ultimately, FSEC does take, I believe, at any time, much as we try to, channel places visibly for, all parties, the general public in particular, so that they can provide timely input for FSEC's considerations, both staff and the council. So I believe that's in part why we have dedicated, campaigns and periods. But ultimately, FSEC is always able to take comments at any time. It's just that, any time can get at times lost in the mix, and we don't want that to happen. Much as I think staff do a good job of capturing input really at any time. So we appreciate that as well. So I may have forgotten. I believe we have a motion on the table to extend to June 25th. I guess I should also, I'll add a comment of, while for those who maybe said it in one word or thinking it another, that the extension timeframe may feel a little tight, just in terms of the work that's to be done, ultimately considering the work that has been done by staff and others, including the applicant, on why that particular date has been brought forward as a recommendation of the council. I guess I would ask ultimately council's will on how they want to proceed, but perhaps a little indulgence of what might feel a little tight on that particular date, but ultimately there will be a lot that's happening between now and the June regular meeting of the FSEC Council, by which we would really probably further inform the general path ahead, whether that was a day later or a month later or whatever that path may inform, including the public comment that would accompany that guidance, if you will, for a broader timeframe forward. I am certainly a believer in trying to achieve more time-certain outcomes, as long as they're done thoughtfully and objectively and with enough time that parties can obviously digest and provide further comment that they need. But at the same time, obviously, however many, someone might want to remind us if the need be of how many years the project has been in process. And so I think probably we should acknowledge that as well, much as I look forward to continuing to hear the comments, especially from those in our host communities in Klickitat County, knowing that we'll be doing that in particular again on the 5th of May. So happy to take any questions or comments on mine first, and then if not soon, I will call for a vote. But other comments or final questions? Okay, then there is a motion on the table to extend the Carriger Solar project to June 25th, 2025. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Council, for the discussion and input and action. And with that, unless there's any closing comments from staff on the Carriger project, then we will advance to the Horse Heaven project. Ms. Moon.
Good afternoon, Council Chair Beckett and FSEC Council members. For the record, this is Amy Moon reporting on the Horse Heaven Wind Project. The Pre-Operational Technical Advisory Group, or PTAG, continued to meet in March to review and provide technical advice on wildlife and wildlife habitat management, mitigation, and project design plans. FSEC staff have been working closely with the Washington Department of Natural Resources regarding a proposed new water supply that was not evaluated in the final environmental impact statement under the SEPA Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA. This work is being done to address the Horse Heaven Site Certification Agreement that required the certificate holder to provide certification of water availability for process waters for site construction and operation to include all project actions, including vegetation management and solar panel washing per the SCA Articles 4 and 7. The coordination and SEPA analysis are ongoing, and staff will continue to update the council on this effort. Does the council have any questions?
Council members? Mr. Young has his hand up.
Is there
Councilman?
any active litigation around this project?
No. Well, okay. I'm going to go. Thank you, John.
Councilmember Young, this is John Thompson. Yes, there are pending petitions for judicial review of the governor's decision and the FSEC process, currently pending. However, there's not there hasn't been any legal action to prevent implementation of the site certification agreement. So hopefully that'll answer your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments from the council? Okay, hearing none, we will move on then to Hop Hill Solar. Mr. Barnes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Beckett and council members. For the record, this is John Barnes, FSEC staff for the Hop Hill application. FSEC staff have had discussions with the applicant about their interest in expanding the project in both acreage and megawatt. Based on ongoing discussion with the applicant, FSEC anticipates receiving official application amendments by the end of May 2025. In anticipation of receiving this material, FSEC has scheduled with the Department of Ecology to conduct a wetland and waters verification site visit for May 2025 for these new proposed areas. We continue to coordinate with and review the application with our contractor, contracted agencies, and tribal governments. There are no further updates at this time. Are there any questions?
Council, questions on the Hop Hill Solar Project? Hearing none, we'll move on to Wallula Gap. Mr. Barnes again.
Thank you, Chair Beckett and council members. For the record, this is John Barnes, FSEC staff for the Wallula Gap application. FSEC met on April 15th, 2025 with the applicant and the Department of Ecology to conduct a wetland and waters verification for the project area. It was determined during this meeting that an additional verification visit would be needed to confirm an area that was unable to be verified during the April visit and still of interest by the Department of Ecology. FSEC anticipates a meeting with the Department of Ecology in May 2025 to conduct this site verification. We continue to coordinate review with application with our contractor, contracted agencies, and tribal governments. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Council, questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to GoldenEye Battery Energy Storage Project. Joanne Snarski.
Thank you, Chair Beckett. Again, this is Joanne Snarski, the siting specialist for the proposed GoldenEye Battery Energy Storage Facility in Skagit County. Staff are continuing to work with our partnering agencies to review and seek information on the application for site certification. Staff are also working with the Washington Department of Ecology and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to develop policies to ensure that the project would comply with the National Flood Insurance Program. I have no additional updates.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion from the council on GoldenEye, just to be clear? Hearing none, we will then move on to the...
Chair Beckett, this is Ms. Grantham. I see Robbie Eckroth has his hand up.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Mr. Eckroth.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if staff has an anticipated time frame as to when the council can expect a SEPA determination.
I do not believe we have that at this time, no.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Did I miss anyone else? I don't see any. Okay, thank you for flagging that. And with that, we will move on to the FSEC Transmission Programmatic Environmental Impact Statement. And Sean Green will provide that update from the FSEC staff. Sean?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Beckett and council members. For the record, this is Sean Green, SEPA Specialist for FSEC. I'm here today to give you all an update on our progress on the Transmission Programmatic EIS. This is a non-project environmental review of electrical transmission facilities with a nominal voltage of 230 kilovolts or greater that was assigned to FSEC by Washington State Senate Bill 5165 in 2023. We had been working steadily on this programmatic EIS since the middle of last year. We published the EIS scoping memo on June 28th of 2024 and produced a draft EIS based on input from members of the public, staff from other state agencies, tribes, and subject matter experts at our consultant WSP, among others. The draft programmatic EIS was distributed for public comment on March 31st of this year, and we are currently within a public comment period that is scheduled to end on April 30th. FSEC held a public informational meeting on April 8th, which included a presentation providing information on the programmatic EIS and the public comment process. A recording of this meeting and presentation is available on the FSEC website. FSEC will hold 2 public comment hearings on April 22nd and April 24th to provide members of the public the opportunity to submit verbal comments on the draft programmatic EIS. Once the public comment period closes, we will assess the comments received to identify those that are substantive, respond to those comments, and further develop and refine the draft programmatic EIS as we prepare the final programmatic EIS. We currently anticipate publishing the final programmatic EIS on June 30th of 2025. Are there any questions?
Are there questions or discussion, council members? Seeing none, I will add one quickly for the record and just a little observation. So one, thank you to staff and others, including those who participated in the first public meeting, for bringing this important work forward. Mr. Green, you had noted that at the, I believe, both public meetings, we would take verbal comment, meaning if someone wants to come and add their voice into the record, it'll be captured. But at those meetings, if someone were to bring a written record, they can submit it then, as well as at really any time throughout the public comment period through the end of April. Is that correct?
That is correct. If a member of the public wishes to submit a written comment at that meeting, we would preferentially direct them either towards our online comment database on the FSEC website, or emailing that written comment directly to FSEC, rather than, for instance, putting it in the Teams chat. It would just be more effectively captured by our staff, but they can submit written comments at any point during the public comment period.
Great, thank you. And I would fully agree. Let's avoid Teams chat posting of public comments. And Mr. Green, having empathy for the following, having labored under the next comment I'll make, please know that going in. But from the written update that is in the packet on the regular operating updates, the milestones stop at March 31st. And just given the importance of the public meetings that we had, it would be good to make sure that that regular update just captures that activity for the record as well, was one quick bit of feedback I had upon reading that transmission programmatic update as part of our packet. So I know you have many places to make sure all those are recorded, but appreciate that, given it's a council document. I think we're almost done, Mr. Green. I just want to make sure that you captured that, or did we lose you?
Yes, Chair. Thank you for the note. We'll make sure that the milestone dates are more complete going forward.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much. Okay, with that, we will move on to our other items, starting with any updates on cost allocations from Director Bumpus.
Good afternoon, Chair Beckett and council members. Thank you. For the record, this is Sonia Bumpus. I have the fourth quarter cost allocation updates, which covers April 1, 2025 to June 30, 2025, and I'll just read these off. For the Columbia Generating Station, 20%. For Horse Heaven, 13%. Chehalis, 6%. Grays Harbor, 6%. Carriger Solar, 5%. Goldeneye, 5%. Hop Hill, 5%. Wallula Gap, 5%. Watoma, 5%. Columbia Solar, 4%. Austria, 4%. Desert Claim Wind, 4%. Goose Prairie, 4%. Kittitas Valley, 4%. Wild Horse, 4%. Badger Mountain, 2%. High Top, 2%. And WNP1, 2%. And that concludes my update on the cost allocation.
Thank you, Director Bumpus. Are there questions from the council on the current cost allocation information that's been provided? Hearing none, we will then move on to our, I believe, our final item, which is our rulemaking update, and Dave Walker will provide that update for us. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Beckett, and good afternoon, Chair and council members. For the record, my name is David Walker, Interim Director of Administrative Services. On the agenda today is a staff proposal for the council to consider rulemaking. Council action will need to be held during the May council meeting, as it wasn't clearly listed as a council action on today's agenda. Staff is recommending to file a final rulemaking order, or a CR 103, to make a host of housekeeping changes to FSEC's current rules. As the proposal in your packets note, this rulemaking began July 23rd of last year as an expedited change of rules. It introduces non-substantive amendments only across 24 of the 26 chapters in Title 463 of the Washington Administrative Code, or WACs as we refer to them. The primary intent of these rule changes is to bring the WACs up to date with current statutes and regulations. With few exceptions, FSEC's rules have not changed since 2004 or earlier, even though FSEC became an independent state agency in 2022. The WAC chapters for council action are quite outdated in terms of the agency's physical address, telephone number, reference to an old Public Records Act, outdated details about obtaining public records, reference to the agency that FSEC was part of many years ago, an umbrella agency that no longer exists by name. Those are all just examples of what the team has corrected in these WACs. Finally, in the housekeeping review, staff found some basic typographical errors that were corrected, and language was adjusted for clarity. FSEC originally filed the changes as housekeeping under RCW 3405-353, which covers expedited rulemaking. Pursuant to that statute, FSEC received an objection to the expedited rulemaking. Given the objection, FSEC turned the notice to a proposed expedited rulemaking into a pre-notice inquiry as dictated by statute, and filed a CR 102, lengthening the time for public comment and scheduling a formal public hearing that was noticed in advance and held on November 7th of last year. In addition to the public hearing, formal public comment periods took place from August 5th through September 24th, and from October 16 to November 7th, all of last year. And the rulemaking has been open for public comment on the website since August 5th until now. Since we're going to be asking the council to take action on this next month, we are certainly available for any questions, or if there is a need for a definition of, I'm sorry, let me get back up here, non-substantive rulemaking.
Oh, is that complete?
I'm done.
It's a good update. We appreciate
Thank you.
the detail. Let me make a quick comment, and I'll turn this and open it up to the council for their questions or further comments. The public may be able to see, as I do on my screen, the document that's in a couple places on our website for your reference. And there's a hyperlink in the middle of the document that says "See all amended chapters," and then the hyperlink, which essentially is the actual rule changes themselves, red line or strike through, I guess, as it works in the world of rules and RCWs. So for those who may wish to see the actual changes, that is there. And as Mr. Walker has explained, given it's been a little bit since this rule has been before us and before the public, as well as that it has its elongated kind of path, as well as some questions earlier that led to not using the expedited process, we wanted to, again, put this into the public record today with an intent to bring it forward for action next month at the regular meeting. Having looked at this, it is important, but nonetheless administrative and pretty perfunctory. So certainly I'm pleased to see it come forward as it did. And I think, to the degree there's other strengths that we have within the rulemaking process with FSEC that can help continue to clarify and just improve some of our activities, like pre-application, I think is one example. Whatever we do in any future rulemaking like that certainly would, again, have the same public process that's associated with it. But I do think those are important activities, and just wanted to acknowledge that, I guess, here amongst my fellow council members as well as the public, and really appreciate and support this coming forward. So thanks for the update. And with that, I will turn this to council for their comments or questions. All right. Hearing none, I would turn, I guess, to Director Bumpus, see if there's any closing comments she has, or if other council members had any closing comments, we can take those as well. Okay. Seemingly none for the council. I do Want to thank Mr. File for having, I see in the chat here noted that Watoma project was not on the agenda today, and I believe that that has been is dormant and as a result is not on the agenda. So I just wanted to acknowledge his attention to detail, which I'm certainly appreciative of. And in case there's, I guess, other questions as to projects that come on or off the agenda, I would just flag that for staff, you know, if there's something that we should do in case citizens and other, especially council members, have questions about that. So I just wanted to highlight that in respect to Mr. File, who's a member of the council on on Balula Gap. Sorry to need to check that, but with that acknowledgement, unless there's any other comment, I will do us the favor of adjourning the meeting at 2:35. Any questions? Okay, the meeting's hereby adjourned.